morning all to the joint O&M committee meeting for October 31st. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Ms. Wood, Ms. Fraser, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, passed. And we'll move, there's no action agenda, so we'll move right into referrals from Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. We did talk about the last couple items last month, and I've got a little bit of numbers on the Wi-Fi item. So if we want to move into information for discussion. I did ask Mike Colvin from our county IT department what we would want to budget for Wi-Fi at the park, and he thought the best deal out there right now is 50 meg connection for $99 a month plus tax. I don't know for sure what taxes the county would be required to cover on that, or if we'd be exempt for some of those, so that's something to work out. There would also be some relatively small equipment, expenses for actually putting in a Wi-Fi router at the site. The idea would be not to cover the entire park, but it would just in the area of the park building to allow a certain range within that building, which would hit part of the festival space, it would hit the skateboard park, and part of the children's playground area, and then of course the park building itself. So those are the numbers I've got so far.
Any discussion on that from the committee? Need a motion to go ahead with it? Mr. Dickinson?
Second.
Ms. Wood? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
You can tell how far it goes, you just go by when the kids are out there.
Right, where all the kids are moving,
wherever
right.
they stop is where the
Exactly.
True.
Well, I'll continue to work with Mike Colvin to get that installed, and we'll push it. There's no reason really, I think, unless the committee wants, we can get it installed right away, but we can look for, an April install and get it activated in April when it starts getting busy again.
That sounds good.
Okay. The next item is something we brought up a few months ago, which was the South Parcel O&M manual, and I did make a few copies. We had some that were distributed a few months ago. I included in the packet on page 1 on the back side of the agenda. I included the page that I found in the conservation easement that really addressed the maintenance of the park facilities, and you'll see in item 6 where it describes that the county is responsible for maintaining those wetlands that are on the south parcel. And then in item 7 it does talk about the fact that the revenue generated at the site is usable, that it wouldn't have to be additional dollars, it could come out of the revenue generated on the entire park facility. So that's the background of how this came about.
Gene,
Yes, Ms. Dickinson.
I have a question. They're finishing up the Gateway 21 project. They've done almost no stormwater retention. If anything, they've done stormwater acceleration. They put in bigger, faster lines. Is that wetland area gonna be sufficient for, it's a mile of road?
Yeah, it should, basically when there's we were actually talking about it last week, when the stormwater comes down the hill, it goes into a box, and then there's a certain amount of water that will go into the intake, into the wetland, and then after it gets up to a certain point, it will overflow directly into the brook. So it's not gonna take the entire, if it's, do a storm in an hour, it's not gonna take that entire.
So the answer is no.
Well, it was designed that way. It was designed because of the
So
velocity
what kind of
that can come in
storm
there.
event will it take? What are they talking about? 10 year, 25, 50?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it will take, I think it's up to, I think a 10-year, definitely a 10-year storm. Chase looked at that last year.
Jason did?
Yeah.
Jeff?
And I know back during the original concept and the design of that wetland area, it was really maximized, the space was maximized for those wetland treatment areas. They really used every inch possible, at the same time allowing some recreational use with the paths and things going through there. And the idea, the concept was the first flush really was to be able to treat the first flush off the road. So a bigger, longer duration storm it would never be able to treat, the volumes are just too great. The idea though is that that first flush where most of the debris comes in, in the early hours of the storm, that's what we would be treating, and then after the first flush, it would be overflowing, if the flow rates are too great.
It was an ongoing issue when we were doing the design of the thing, 'cause that's the best soils we have in the whole town of Lake George. And they absolutely refused to let us do any stormwater, infiltration, zero. We have one little stormwater facility up by the parking lot on the side of the Luzerne Road, that's it. The rest of it was just bigger, faster, stronger. They wouldn't let us do anything. Even the median areas where we have the vegetation, they wouldn't let us do any stormwater.
So if there's any questions on, that the conservation easement is kind of what has brought us to this point. The wetlands have been operating for a few years now, and, they're well vegetated, and the village has been maintaining the property from just a standpoint of, mowing and picking up trash and, minor erosion control and things like that. This is the O&M, manual is meant to be a durable but living document that we can modify over the years. And I included on page 2 the cost estimate in a year where we've really got to do almost everything. Some of these items are set-asides. For instance, the sediment debris removal from the 4 bays, a set-aside of $800 a year. The structural repair and replacement, $800 a year, with the idea that there would be a fund available when the larger ticket items did require repair or upgrades. The concept would be that the environmental groups and soil and water would do annual or periodic inspections, determine which bays needed work, which ones didn't, what areas needed invasive species treatment, and then they would come back to likely this committee with a report of here's what needs to get done this year, or here's when we're going to be due to do this work, and then the county and village would authorize the work using funds available either through the deferred revenue code on the overall park, or if another reserve fund was established simply just for the wetland portions itself.
So it's to fund the LGA and the Land Conservancy,
They are the other parties to the easement.
but they're gonna be inspecting it?
I talked with Randy Rathis here from LGA, and I know they've had inspectors on the site already, and they actually initiated some work already because it needed to be done on the 4 bay. And then we think with a combination of primarily LGA, they've been the most active down in the site, and also soil and water. We don't anticipate needing a separate consultant to come in and inspect the facilities at an additional charge. We think we can do that with our partners on the site.
Excellent.
Jeff, didn't we, back in '08, weren't we talking about having soil and water do this work for the county? That's what I thought. We were gonna pay them to do this work.
Right, and I think that's anticipated as part of this O&M, and I don't think, in talking to Jim Liebram, they haven't backed away from doing any of that. They do similar operations further upstream on this brook and other brooks where there's detention, or sedimentation basins.
But we just thought this was a natural, area for them to enhance their budget a little bit by doing this, so.
They do the work, did soil and, they did the work Friday?
Oh, the dredging, yeah, along with Randy at the LGA,
Yeah,
soil and
they
water.
already been,
On, page 3 is just the pictorial of the south parcel, that really what we're talking about. So on that, you can see all of the, various ponds involved. Pond 1 is the first one in the treatment train. And then you'll also see over to the right side of the page, closer to the battlefield, is the gravel wetland. We know that's gonna be an expensive item once it gets to a point where we need to do significant work in the gravel wetland. But that's gonna be something that will only be done when necessary. So it's kinda hard to predict on, how frequently that'll be done at this point.
Further questions?
Do we need to adopt the manual, Jeff, or something?
I guess I leave it up to the committee. If the committee wants more time to look at it, I can make sure that we email out this version to everybody. I can have Amanda send it to the full board. And then we can bring it back next month. I don't think there's any urgency right now. The earliest, the next round of inspections and any work would be done would be in the spring anyway. So I think the goal would be to have something implemented, adopted by the county and the village, in springtime, so that we could initiate work if necessary then.
I think the only rush right now is the gravel wetlands, the inspection of the towns, we had talked about that, but that might not happen in the spring.
Yeah, 'cause we might go in and we might need to get rid of some of the cattails and then kind of brush that off, do that, but, I'm not sure if that's something we'd be able to do this fall or not. Depends on the weather.
I guess, well, even in the absence of a formal O&M manual, if something needs to get done, we can talk offline on that, and maybe we can,
Sure, yeah, that's just the next thing.
we can take, if there's a, I guess, immediate need to address cattails.
No, I think that's fine.
Okay.
The way you outlined it.
Mhm.
So, yes, Mr.
I'd like to make a motion that we, have Jeff follow through on this, get everybody on the committee a copy of it, and then be prepared next month to make it official.
Yeah, and then we could start in
Down
2017.
the road, there'll be no question
With
about it.
soil and water, get them involved so they know what's going on. Okay, so I got a motion, I got a second, Ms. Wood. Any other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, thanks. The next item was, the latest, concept plan for the water features. I'll
Okay.
turn it over to the mayor on that
Got
one.
some colored, prettier looking things there. The water feature is the last, major element of the park, and, we were waiting actually to see how we were doing financially with the bids, and, Bill, maybe you'd wanna just, we opened bids, for the signage, interpretive signage, and the, bridge going across the brook last Thursday.
Want me to give the
Yes,
numbers?
yeah.
On the interpretive signs, the bids came in, the low bidder was at $9,716, and the metal work to be done on the bridge crossing West Brook, the low bid on that came in at $84,160. Both of the bridge work was close to where the engineer's estimate was. The interpretive signs came in significantly cheaper, so we have got some money available that we can switch over to the water feature, and the mayor's gonna discuss that.
Yeah, the bids came in approximately $70,000 less than what, we had estimated, so with the $70,000 and, $150,000 that we had already committed, we, according to Jer at our PMEC meeting, we have enough money to complete the water feature, with those funds in place. This is just a schematic. It was presented to the PMEC committee last week, and they all liked it and, authorized, the design team to go ahead and, continue, working on it and try to stay within the budget that I just mentioned. It may be that we'll have to cut down on the length of the, waterfalls coming down the hill. It's a natural slope. It's gonna be pretty hard to draw specifications for something like this, but there are firms already that have called and are interested in bidding. So it looks like as far as the finances go, we're gonna be able to complete the last feature of, the park under bid. And we just wanted, if there's any comments on this water feature from any of you folks, we wanted to make it look as natural as we could. We got a conservation easement, obviously, that the folks from the 3 E's are interested in outside. They wanted it to blend more in with the natural, landscape, and that's what, the design people have attempted to do. The water will just be recirculated, There's already a line going over to that site underneath the festival space to service the water for this, feature.
Okay, so then, we're all set, but you, like we talked last week, if I'm right, Lisa, the $150,000 we committed in last year's budget, we will roll it over into 2017. You have to reapply for it again, but we didn't spend it, so we're just rolling it over, but you still have to reapply.
I sent a letter, I think, to you indicating where we were at, but we've already started, obviously, to design.
No, I think everything's fine. Anybody got any problem with that? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I just got a question on, Resolution 169 of 2016, where you identified the occupancy tax money, where we requested the $150,000. It spells out that there's $124,000, that would be available for the project. Will there be some other documentation or another resolution to amend that to bring it up to the 150?
Lisa, that, I'm not aware of the 125. I think we passed
It's in 169 of 2016.
resolution?
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to pull that out. It's
Okay.
supposed to be 150, whether that's,
I know that's what we talked about in
Right.
committee, but when the resolution was adopted, it spells out 124,000 rather than the 150.
oh, yeah, that's right. Could that be the county portion? I don't, no, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be
Wouldn't do that.
two-thirds, no. No, this was coming out of OPEX. It was done early last year. We'll look into that resolution, but it should have been 150. Maybe we might have to amend that and,
Was the total cost 200 and the 124 was, that would make sense. 124
No.
out of 200 would be our 62%.
Well, what happened is when we came to the committee and the mayor made the request, the project budget was short by $150,000. And the committee made the decision to supply all $150,000 of
That I remember,
occupancy
yes.
tax money without any reference to the 62%. But when the resolution was drawn, it got into the 62%. So there was a difference between the committee and the resolution.
all right, we'll have to get into that and we can solve it by next meeting. All right, we'll have to look into that.
Craig had a question.
Who got it? Yes, Montesi.
Mr. Ramey, what is the bridge that you referred to? Is there a walking bridge?
Yes, and I think you could probably take a golf cart over it, but no more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
and there's metal work, that needs to be done, to the bridge, and there'll be I believe it's new handrails, that are going on the bridge as well.
This is between,
The two sites, from the north parcel to the south parcel, the original master plan called for the abolishment of that bridge and the construction of two new bridges that would line up with the paths. And as we looked at it and we were trying to meet budget, the PMEC decided to scrap the plan for two new bridges, use the existing bridge, reinforce it, and bring it up to, current standards.
so that's the 80,000 or
Yes.
70,000?
Yes.
All right, I thought Mr. Liggett, did you have your hand up?
I did, I think we reduced that request of 150,000 at that occupancy tax meeting.
We reduce it?
I'm pulling up some minutes here, but I think there was discussion, seemed to be a lot of money at the time.
Okay, we'll look into that. We'll have an answer for you next meeting.
We kinda need to know, because the project's being designed, and if it's a smaller budget, then we need to design a smaller project. If the 150 is actually real, then that would be the budget we would have Alon design the project to.
All right, we'll have to look into it today and we'll get to you. I just don't, I remember 150 for some reason.
When was that resolution?
I can give you the number, I don't have a date on it. It was resolution 169.
Probably February or March.
Yeah, it had to be February or March.
Mr. Simpson probably could help him with a bridge.
Yeah.
No, we don't want them anywhere near it. Take way too long.
All right, we'll look into it and get you back an answer probably today, and then make sure the committee gets emailed and lets you know what the answer is. All right? You have anything else, Jeff? I only have one question. In the minutes last month, we talked about the skate park insurance. Anything get resolved on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have investigated, we've reached out to our broker and to NYMER, and we're awaiting an answer from NYMER whether they can break that up and provide a separate policy or not.
That was the question, yeah, if we get from the county, get away from the skate park and let the village take it.
They're,
So it's still on hold.
they have not advised us a final answer yet, whether they can break that up or not. We've told them we need that answer.
All right, privilege to the floor, anybody, have any other questions?
I'll just pass out, up-to-date, bookings for the festival space. Had to write in some stuff because it just, happened last week. But since the last meeting, we booked 4 new events. Barbershop Quartet, Northeastern United States Festival, coming May 5th through the 7th. Law Enforcement Weekend, May 19th through the 20th. British Invasion, which is returning for the 3rd year. That's, the Strand Theater fundraiser from Hudson Falls. The, October 14th, Free to Breathe is doing a large event there, including a 5K run, on October 14th. And then, of course, the EVP volleyball tournament, now we're finding out, wants to use the festival space as well, so that they can have some of their event on the grass. So it looks like we're going to almost triple the events next year if everything comes to pass that we've been working on. So it looks like a good year for the festival space in 2017. The good news is it's a great variety of events. If you look at the Wine and Food Festival, the Barbershop Quartet, the Law Enforcement Weekend that we're working on, and Americade, and so forth, and the 260th anniversary encampment down there, and then the car show. It's not one music festival after another. It's exactly what we thought would happen, and is a great variety of events. And I think you're going to see even more as we go forward.
Good job, Mr. Mayor. I think we're gonna have to, after you retire, we're gonna have to hire you to run this.
I'm planning on a part-time job pretty soon, because it does take a lot of work. I'm actually going tomorrow to Albany to meet with another big music festival, and they just love the space. That's all I can tell you. It's a beautiful setting, and it's a credit to the town and the county and the village that we came this far, and they absolutely love the idea that children's playground is right there, so they can bring their children, and there's something different and exciting for them to do. I'm sure when we get the water feature done, we're gonna be having a lot of little rugrats going through the water as well. Thank you.
You got nothing on number 1?
No, I don't have anything new on that. We have the temporary stage, specs are complete, but it's kind of on hold right now for
We're just
grant
waiting to hear,
possibilities.
from the, I talked to the manufacturers, last week, and they tell me it'll be a 3 to 4 month lead time, but as the chairman told me, he's correct, the New York State Dormitory Authority moves very slowly, and she told me it might be 4 or 5 months before we get the contract, so.
Yeah.
All right, anything else open to the public? Motion, excuse me, I see one more question.
Yeah, just looking here at the committee meeting minutes from January 29, 2016. Motion was made by Mrs. Fraser, second by Mr. Dickinson, carried unanimously to appropriate $150,000 from occupancy tax reserve budget code A .6417480.04.
So we'll have to pull out the,
Would it be proper to make a motion to roll that over as the village is requesting?
But he has, yeah, we sent us a letter.
I sent a letter
Asking
requesting
for it.
that at the chairman's,
Right.
request,
So that's enough?
just to encumber it because we're not that far along right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need a motion on that to, roll it over, or just,
How do you handle that, Amanda?
It's just an
It's
accounting
gonna go
function.
back to the reserve and then it's
It's an
gonna be.
accounting function, yeah,
it's an account?
Appropriated.
So we don't need anything. And if something comes up, we'll have it.
similar to that.
We got plenty of time
Knowing you have set
early
aside.
next year to put it through
Set it
again.
aside and don't
Okay.
count it.
All right, Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just a comment, we have actually started the project. I mean, it's in design, we paid along for engineering work on the water feature, so technically we have started it. We just won't be going to bid on it until sometime, late winter.
Well, it's sitting there. I mean, last month, we just discussed it in case nothing got started, to let them know that they have to roll it over and reapply for it again. But it's still sitting there until the end of the year. If something comes up, we got it. If not, we're prepared to roll it over.
So if they have bills, they can submit them now?
Well, I think the direction you gave us was to spend all other resources first before we came to spend the occupancy tax.
That was, because we're just filling in the difference of what you needed to complete the job, so this money should be before that. But, I mean, if everybody agrees with what we're saying, I mean, it's still good until the end of this, December 31st, and if need be, we'll roll it over into January and start next year with it. Okay, we need a motion then to amend the resolution that you just read the number to, 160, and to have it corrected at our next board meeting to make it 150. All right, I got Mr. Dickinson, Ms. Frazier. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. All right, any more questions? Motion adjourned? Mr. Mayor, Mr. Wood, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
So I got us down for Wednesday. I have us down for Wednesday.
Yeah, 1 o'clock, but if we have our meeting in the morning,
Well, I
our
just
state
say-
meeting and John comes, we can stay right there and meet, and go to the diner or something, no sense of going down there.
They got that right. Designer services right now.
I got another call this morning from somebody wanting to volunteer